Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, this video is about the K1 visa process, the actual K1 visa process, to help you with your approval if you qualify for the fiancé visa. Okay, it's a benefit, and this video is to help folks tailing off 2025 going into 2026. Okay, so watch and take notes, class. Get a pen, get a notebook, take some notes. Now, the K1 visa, or the K1 fiancé visa, allows the foreign national, the fiancé of a U.S. citizen, to enter the United States with the purpose of getting married within 90 days of his or her arrival. Now, it is very important that you marry each other within 90 days of your said arrival, or you will face immigration problems, possible deportation. And don't forget, this is a non-immigrant visa, which only allows for a temporary stay in the United States unless you get married within 90 days, which you're going to do, right? That's right. Okay? Thus, because it's a non-immigrant visa, you only have to meet 100% of the minimum income requirements at the U.S. Embassy or consulate when you go for the scary visa interview. Okay? This K1 then paves the way for a one-way trip to the United States and permanent residency through marriage to a U.S. citizen. I mean one way by saying that the K1 visa can only be used one way, and then it's done. You got it? Now, this visa applies only to fiancés of U.S. citizens, not green card holders. Okay? Green card holders do not qualify for this K1 visa benefit. You got that? Okay. So, who gets to qualify for this K1 visa benefit created by the United States Congress of the United States? Well, first, the sponsor must be a U.S. citizen, like I mentioned. Remember that green card holders do not qualify as sponsors for K1 visas. Very important that you understand that. Secondly, both parties must be legally free and to marry each other. So any previous marriages must be legally terminated. Which means if you are divorced or a widow, get certified copies of these courthouse documents, like your divorce decrees, your death certificates, annulments, etc. Get them stamped and signed and dated by the clerk of the court. It is very important to make sure they are signed and stamped by the clerk of the court. Why is that? And, well, they don't count if you don't. And I recommend you get 5 certified copies of each document, as you are going to need them in the future. Okay? Do not, I repeat, do not go to Office Depot or the library, etc., and make copies of these forms to include in any immigration benefit, as immigration will not accept copies from Office Depot, from the library, etc. Okay? So, let's continue. Now, couples must have met each other in person within 2 years before you file the petition. And you guys must be in a real, rock-solid relationship with evidence to back this up. You got to prove you're in a relationship with each other. Okay? So make sure you have plenty of time dating each other, with at least 2 to 3 trips back and forth to see each other. And I suggest you date each other for at least 1 year or longer. Okay? And it is much easier for the U.S. citizen sponsor to make these trips to see your beneficiary than it does for the beneficiary. So she or she doesn't have to battle the U.S. Embassy for a tourist visa, which can be a challenge. Now, don't forget this 2-year rule requires only one face-to-face meeting. That is the minimum, according to the rules, okay? Which in all reality is not enough time to get to know each other. So common sense says date each other properly, right? Know each other. Also, do not bank on any waivers getting approved by USCIS if you feel you are in extreme hardship or you have strict cultural or religious reasons for having never met each other in person. I have never once seen one of these K1 visas getting approved. in the 12 years I've been doing this. Okay? Now, the U.S. citizen sponsor must meet the income requirements of 100% of the federal poverty guidelines for the embassy or consulate interview, and 125% for the green card application once in the United States when adjusting status to green card holder. Okay? If you are right on the line of 125% regarding your income, then get a joint sponsor before applying for the K-1 visa. Get all your ducks in a row before starting this long, arduous, and expensive process. Both of you must also intend to marry each other within 90 days when the foreign fiancé arrives in the United States, which I've mentioned already. Okay, so what will disqualify you from the K-1 visa benefit? Remember, this is not a right, this is a benefit. Okay, well, if you're already married, you don't qualify. You would have to either apply for a spousal visa, like the CR1 or IR1 spousal visa, or wait till you get divorced from the person you're married to if you want to marry somebody else. If you don't meet the minimum income requirements. If you have certain criminal convictions, especially against women or children regarding domestic violence. Anything like that, just hang it up. If you have previously violated U.S. immigration laws, Ms. Beneficiary, Mr. Beneficiary, if you've overstayed a tourist visa, for example, this could be a problem. It will be a problem. You cannot prove a genuine relationship. You've only been dating each other for a short time. You hardly know each other. You spent very little time together. That's going to be a problem getting this visa approved. If you have a communicable disease posing a public health risk, you will not get the K-1 visa. And or if you have failed the in-person visa interview at the U.S. Embassy or consular office, which does happen. You could be just nervous as heck, scared to death, go in there and totally flunk it. Now, the current K-1 visa processing timeline, leaving 2025, going into 2026 for Form I-129F is 6 to 10 months as per USCIS. So you have to be patient during this process, okay? Now, what's the first thing you do? Well, you're going to start the K-1 visa application, assuming you are in a real relationship with the copious amounts of evidence you have been collecting over the time of your dating each other to prove it, okay? And then you're going to complete USCIS Form I-129F, and the first thing you're going to do is make sure it's the correct edition. If you file the incorrect edition, everything will be sent back to you. Okay, you can get the form at this link right here. Go to this website, and that's where you can find the I-129F. The U.S. citizen sponsor then starts the process by filing Form I-129F with these supporting documents, which include proof of U.S. citizenship. You can use a color blown up copy of your U.S. passport or birth certificate to prove you are a U.S. citizen. A color copy of your naturalization certificate, if that applies to you. You can use that. You got to have proof of intent to marry each other. And what does that include? Well, that's going to include signed statements called letters of intent to get married, written by both parties, the future husband and the future wife, stating you intend to marry each other within 90 days. State your nationality, you're an American citizen, you're a Venezuelan citizen, etc. And that you promise to get married within 90 days upon entering the United States before you begin the adjustment of status process. You got to have copious amounts of evidence of a genuine relationship, like photos together with family and friends, communication records, emails, WhatsApp chats, Yahoo chats, etc. You got to prove that you met each other in person, and the evidence that you met in person at least once in the last 2 years, unless you're trying to go the waiver route, but forget that, such as photos together with dates, flight itineraries, boarding passes, hotel reservations, stamped passport pages, etc., etc. And then you got to prove the relationship. You got to prove that it's real, okay? Evidence showing a bona fide relationship is critical. What are examples of that? Evidence showing a bona fide relationship. Examples would include engagement photos, call or message logs, letters or cards exchanged between each other, birthday cards, Christmas cards, etc. Photos with each other's families. Now, these photos are more important than selfies, okay? The selfies, don't be doing all the selfies for everything. You got to have pictures with the families and the friends. Do not include photos of an engagement party in cultural clothes because immigration may misconstrue this as a wedding and deny your application right off the bat. Okay, just have a celebration in regular clothes. If you do celebrate in your country of origin clothes, don't put them pictures in the application. Don't forget passport style photos. One passport photo of the U.S. petitioner. One passport photo of the foreign fiancé, taken 90 days before you mail off the K1 visa package. So make sure you include a receipt of when you paid for the passport photos showing this date, okay? You're going to need a copy of the foreign fiancé's passport biographic page blown up in color, and her birth certificate or his birth certificate, the long form. Any name change documents if it's applicable, legal eligibility evidence, proof of termination of previous marriages from your beneficiary, and for either party actually. Like I mentioned before, divorce decrees, annulments, death certificates, certified by the courthouse. And don't even think about trying to get a waiver if you haven't met each other in person yet. The sponsored fiancé must also include a copy of all previously issued Form I-94s. So if your beneficiary has been to the United States before, you got to prove it with the I-94s, that they came in legally. Evidence of relationships in the digital era. How interesting is that?
More calling Orson. Come in, Orson. More calling Orson. Come in.
And let's talk about evidence of relationships in the digital era. The digital era offers applicants, the sponsor, additional evidence for their application. This could be helpful. It actually is helpful for immigration to consider your case. Screenshots of social media interactions, especially like on Facebook. Karina and I, we use Facebook a lot, Instagram, when we were in Bogota, Colombia together. Consider including select screenshots of your communications on social media, like I said, such as posts you've tagged each other in, including public displays of affection if you want, like I said, on Facebook, Instagram, for example. And it's important to show chat histories that demonstrate meaningful conversations or experiences that you've shared over the long duration of your relationship. Okay? Immigration is going to want to see this at the embassy interview also, not just the K1 visa application. Digital communication logs are also very important. So if you communicate on apps like WhatsApp, Messenger, etc., get an organized collection of the depth of your communications, and they are going to be valuable. Karina, my beautiful wife from Venezuela, and I communicated daily using WhatsApp. I was here in Florida, she was in Bogota, Colombia. And you can also show immigration shared digital experiences if you want, like if you play online games together, or if you have shared subscriptions or services, or let's suppose you collaborate on projects together online. These shared activities will definitely strengthen your visa application, which is what you're trying to do. Okay. Now, after the Form I-129F and the 1 to 2 years worth of supporting documents and relationship evidence, once you file it at the appropriate address, USCIS will typically send a receipt notice within about 30 days called an NOA1 letter. That just means that they got your stuff and you didn't mess anything up. USCIS could also send a request for evidence or request for further evidence, an RFE, if they need more information, if you missed something or you failed to include some required documents. But don't make that mistake, because it just slows down your entire process. Now, once the Form I-129F is approved, USCIS will send another letter to you called an NOA2 letter, Notice of Action 2, and hopefully it's an approval notice, and from the NOA1 letter to the NOA2 letter, this is taking between 9 to 10 months. Now, the correct address to ship your K1 visa to is listed right here. Okay, so I'm going to put the correct addresses in right here on where you're going to ship your K1 visa. You got two choices. If you're going to use the postal system, the postal service, you're going to mail it to this address right here. Okay, which I don't recommend you use the postal service. No disrespect to the postal service. I recommend you use a courier service like an express mail courier service like FedEx, UPS, or DHL. This is what I strongly recommend. Pay attention, class. Okay, if you're going to use a courier service, this is the address where you're going to send it to. Okay, very important. It's going to have a business address. That's where you want to send it. Okay, you don't want to be using the US Postal Service with something like this. This information is critical for your future life together, right? And I'll repeat myself, I strongly recommend you use a courier service like FedEx, DHL, or UPS. Okay? And don't forget to make 2 complete copies of your application before you ship it. 2 complete copies. It's going to be one for your beneficiary, one for you at the house, and the other one you're going to send to immigration. And don't forget to sign the I-129F, plus use the correct edition of the form. Okay? You're going to pay for your visa application by using USCIS form G1650. Make sure you notify your bank that you are giving USCIS permission to debit money from your savings account or your checking account, so that your bank does not block the transaction, which is going to what? Delay your K1 visa application. And make sure you pay the correct amount, which was going to avoid having your application sent back to you. Like now, once Louisville, Texas gets your K1 visa application, they're going to review it, and then they will forward it to a USCIS service center, usually California, for the most part, or Texas sometimes, okay, or National Benefits Center, for example. Now, once you get the NOA2 letter, the I-797, hopefully your K1 visa has been approved, and now you're going to just wait for the National Visa Center, the MVC in New Hampshire, to receive your approved visa application. So you're just waiting again, waiting and waiting and waiting. The National Visa Center, once they get it, they will review it for any errors, and if any mistakes are found at the MVC, they will return your visa application back to the service center that adjudicated it. And if no mistakes are found, they will, at the National Visa Center, they will then wait until the embassy or the consulate is accepting approved K1 visas, whatever country it is that your beneficiary lives in. Some embassies are more busy than others. And then when the embassy gets busy, they will ship it via diplomatic pouch using DHL aircraft charters to the embassy or consulate in the country that you annotated, where you wanted the consular processing to take place for your beneficiary on the I-129F. Okay, when that happens, then you're going to get an in-transit status. The wheels are off the ground, the plane's flying. Once the visa is airborne and on the way to the embassy or the consulate, then the next step is consular processing at the U.S. Embassy or consulate, which is going to be in the next video. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, thanks for watching this video. Sign up as a member if you want to. That way you can get my cell number and email address where you can call me, text me, email me if you need personal guidance in this process. Okay? And my contact information is for members only, which is in the members only section of this YouTube channel. I'm not an immigration attorney. I don't give you any legal advice. I don't work for USCIS, but I do have 12 years experience though processing green cards and K1 visas and reuniting families together, plus spousal visas too. Okay, so we will see you, Karina and I, my beautiful wife from Venezuela. We will see you at the next live stream, which is going to be the Monday, Wednesday, or Saturday at 6 p.m. Central Time. But as a footnote regarding the new Form I-129F, there are new requirements. Okay, USCIS has released this new version with stricter formatting and filing requirements, which started on May 1st of 2025. Only the new editions of this form will be accepted. Okay, and this update likely relates to the USCIS broader initiative for digital processing and reducing application errors. So what does that mean? Sponsors, U.S. citizen sponsors, must be prepared for heightened verification procedures and proof of the relationship legitimacy. You gotta be in a bona fide relationship. You gotta prove it. If you can't prove it, if you don't meet the income requirements, if you have a criminal history that's going against you, then and if you haven't met each other face to face within the 2 years before you submit the visa, then you need to reconsider even applying for this kind of a visa. Remember, it's a benefit, not a right. See you in the next live stream.
I'll be back. Ha! You did not gonna say that, did you?
That's what you always say.